Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Shubhrata ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good evening, Sargam. And thank you, everyone, for joining in for this session tonight. The UPSC 2021 results have just been announced, and there were a lot of messages we were receiving about mental health issues and mental health challenges that people were facing. So we thought that this would be an appropriate and timely session to have at present. So we have Shubhrata ma'am with us and Sargam who's going to take over. Sargam?
Hi, thank you so much, Sheil. I hope you can hear me. Please let me know.
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Okay, excellent. Hi, Jill. Thank you so much for introducing us and for hosting the session. Shubhrata, I welcome Shubhrata ma'am. We've had one session with her before. She is a passionate mental health advocate, for those of you who don't know about her. And she has also written a book on depression, which talks about her own experiences with mental health challenges. Funnily enough, ma'am herself never faced any mental health, not many mental health challenges at least, while preparing for the exam for 3 years. Even though she did face the regular challenges that all of us do, that we feel a little bit left behind while our friends seem to be moving on with their lives. But her mental health challenges came after, much later, when she was already in the services for a few years. I would like ma'am to introduce herself and also her passion about the subject of mental health, and especially how it's relevant for this day, which is just one day after the results have been announced. Ma'am, if you could just accept my request to speak.
Thanks, Sargam, for that introduction. And a good evening to all of you who have tuned in today to listen to us. Why we are talking about mental health today in particular is because a lot of people have been expressing disappointment over not getting through the civil services this year. And it is in this context that, we are talking about me, my journey of mental health, and of course, the civil services as a career. So, my name is Shubhrata Prakash. I am an IRS officer, Indian Revenue Service of the 2002 batch. I am a commissioner of income tax. And at present, I'm posted at Niti Aayog as director. But of course, this conversation that I'm having today is purely in my personal capacity. And I'm talking to you as someone who survived depression, who, this whole um, journey that I had through depression, it has made me a very passionate mental health advocate, exactly as Sargam said. So I'll just spend a couple of minutes talking about what happened to me and why is it that I speak. So when I was preparing for the civil services, I was a perfectly whole and sane person, if the word sane even means anything. So I did not have any mental health challenges except the occasional mood that would be low. That was for, that is true of anyone. We all go through phases of maybe feeling low or something like that. But otherwise, I was a really happy and optimistic person. I was somebody who was really bubbly. And when I was in college at St. Stephen's, my friends used to tease me. They used to say that look at her, she doesn't walk, she skips, because that's how I used to be. There used to be some kind of song playing in my mind all the time, and I would just keep uh, you know jumping or skipping to the beats of the song in my head. So that's how I used to be, and I used to be someone who would take on any challenge head on. And that included a complete change in career, in the sense that after college, I graduated in maths. Then I did an MBA, and after finishing my MBA, I started working in the corporate sector. And because I've always been a creative person, somehow my strengths lay in marketing and advertising. And I was working on a couple of the best brands in the world at the time I decided to quit my job and start preparing for the civil services. And this is something that a lot of you may identify with, because I'm sure in those of you listening in today, some of you may have quit your career somewhere else to take on this whole gamut of activities with the around the civil services. So when I started in the civil services, I was absolutely fine. But over a period of time, especially looking back, I see that it was postpartum when I had my first baby. It was just after that that I started feeling very low, and I used to get these bouts of crying spells. And for those of you are listening in, a trigger warning that I might mention the word suicide a few times. So yes, I also felt suicidal, and this just didn't make any sense because I had really been wanting a baby, and my husband was very supportive of me in every way. So we were a very in love couple with a beautiful baby, and it just didn't make sense. And then I went through life for the next 5 years just like that. I had another beautiful baby in between. And I think even when I was expecting for the second time, I probably still had depression, but I hadn't been diagnosed. And when I was diagnosed with depression, I really did a double take that okay, as it is, I was suffering, I was in deep pain, and on top of that, I just found out I had depression. And I used to think that depression is something that happens to people who are losers in life, who are not able to do anything. But here I was, and I ticked all the boxes as far as our Indian society goes. I had everything, and I still was feeling like that. And what I had was actually depression. So that really made me sit up, and it took me a long time to come out of that episode of depression. I went through the whole gamut of treatment with antidepressants, with psychotherapy, with every single alternate therapy and faith healing you can think of. And somehow I just wasn't getting better. And after suffering almost hell for a long period of 4 to 5 years, um, I just started getting better, and I was back to my, I wouldn't say my old self, because I really don't know what it would even feel or mean to go back to your old self, because we really cannot travel back in time. So when I was dealing with depression, when I was trying to get better, I was getting so much of stigma from society, and I was getting so much of unhelpful advice. And that's when I realized that very few people know about depression, very few people know about mental health and mental disorders. And that's when I decided to start speaking about it. So I wrote a book about my own journey, and also a book, the part of the book gives a lot of information about mental health and depression. And it is titled The D Word, A Survivor's Guide to Depression. I always mention it because it's a book that I wrote for people to read, to become familiar with the whole subject of mental health. And that's why I keep talking about the book as well. And one of the objectives behind writing this book and all the work that I do in the area of mental health is that it becomes normal to talk about mental health, because somehow there is so much of stigma, and people are very hesitant to talk about mental health. A lot of people don't come forward to avail the treatment or the professional help that's available. Or sometimes, families don't understand what a person with depression or anxiety disorder is going through, and they just deny them the access to help. So this is something that I'm really trying to change, and that is why I have been speaking about mental health from time to time, including this on this platform today. Sargam.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the introduction. I would like to take our conversation to topics very pertinent to how somebody might start dealing with mental health issues right after the announcement of the results when it hasn't been in their favor. And then I think I would love it if you all have questions or comments for today's session to be interactive, because this one is mainly for all of you who needed this session today. So we are here. I'm somebody who wrote the exam and didn't clear it. So I'm on this side. Ma'am is on the other side. But what unites us is our experience with mental health problems, even if for different reasons, and our passion to do something about them and to make sure that the information that we wish we had access to earlier, or the support that we wish we had access to guide you in that direction, to seek that for yourself and to make a space for yourself that allows you to live more holistically and with more wellness in your life. So if you have any questions, any comments, please raise your hands. Otherwise, ma'am, I would like to hear from you. What words do you have for somebody who's not made it? Because they've probably put in a year, 2 years of effort, or maybe more, and they were really hoping to make it this time. They made it till the interview stage, and then they're seeing all of these other people making it, everyone celebrating the toppers. What do you have to say to those people who are here just for some words of solace, perhaps, or maybe some comradeship?
Definitely, that's what today's session is all about. That's why we're here today. Um, Now, for those who didn't make it, let's just what the place that I want you to start, or what I would suggest, you should, where you should start, is just by, first of all, accepting that this happened. Because a lot of times when we really work for something, like I'm sure a lot of you, as I was mentioning, I had also completely made a break with my earlier career, and I had just stepped into the unknown. I didn't know whether I will clear it or not. And the days when I was taking the exam, the total input, I mean, the year I cleared it, it was 298. 298 was the total intake. So the civil services are always very uncertain, even for the best of the minds, for the most hardworking people. And I'm sure all of you would have put in a lot of effort. You would have foregone a lot of other opportunities in life. And some of you may even have been, financially indebted, because you may have taken coaching, or even for buying books for the civil services. And, people, all of us, we all come from different socio-economic strata of society. And that also is something, like, a lot of you may have dreamt about getting into the civil services for various reasons. One is that it gives you the opportunity to be a part of government and decision making there. The another thing is that, it's a job, right? It also gives you salary. So the job aspect, the employment aspect of it, is another area. And then also the let us say, the social status that comes in our society. I'm not saying this for myself, it's just something that is inherently a part of Indian society, that, civil servants are seen with that aura. And in this day and age, especially with so many civil servants having their own YouTube channels, and, all the time talking about and showing what is their regular work, what are they doing, what is their lifestyle. So that's something also very aspirational. A lot of people aspire to be there. So all of you might have ventured into the civil services preparation with one or, multiple of these things in mind, and therefore not clearing the exam today, yesterday, when you would have seen that your name is not on the list, definitely it would have been very disappointing. And absolutely, there's no walking back from it. I cannot say that it's a very happy event, and no, it's not. And actually, that is the place where I would start with, that just accepting that, okay, this happened, and this happened, and it's not something that you're happy about. It's not something. Not everyone can be stoic all the time, that you experience, let us say, an impediment in life, a dream being broken or something, and you are all right with it. It doesn't happen to everyone. So there are some people who may be very stoic, but not everyone is. At least if I were in your place, I would have just exactly felt the same way. Now, those of you who have future attempts left, and those of you who have the energy left, or the motivation, or the fire left to carry on and just try another time, who knows, next year you'll be successful, if not this year. Well, for those of you, I would say, just think that it was a bad day in your life, and that's it. Yesterday was a bad day. Maybe today we are feeling low. Maybe you might feel low for a few more days, but then start, pick up, rise again. Who knows what next year is going to bring for you? Now, there will also be those of you who do not have any attempts left, or even if you have attempts, your life situation is such, maybe financially or socially, or, you may have family responsibilities. So you do not have the space to attempt the exam again, and therefore it's as good as over for you. And of course, those who have exhausted their attempts. So, y'all, I can say that uh, are not going to be taking this. You will not have the same kind of approach, that, okay, today is a bad day, now let me again start tomorrow. But that is true only for the civil services. Yesterday was a bad day. Today you're feeling bad. Tomorrow you might still feel bad. But it's not the end of life. There are so many different paths to life. There are so many different career options, and you will find your way. There will definitely be something that you will find along the way. And you have to be there to do that, right? If you are not in the right headspace, you will not be able to take on the next challenge that comes along. So, I will not deny that you are feeling bad, and you should also not deny. So, with the acceptance that yes, something bad happened, something life changing might have happened for those of you who will not be able to attempt this exam again, who do not have a shot at a career in the civil services. But it's only a life changing event, it's not a life ending event. And that is really, really important. You just must have this in mind. Sometimes, it feels like it is the end of the world, but then when something really nice comes along, you will look back on today and think that, yeah, I mean, that was just another path I was not destined to walk down, but I'm walking along a path which is maybe better, or who knows the future. This is so much in the future. And if at my age I'm still able to think about the future, dream about the future, that I still have a few things I might like to do. For instance, this whole area of mental health and raising awareness is something at my age I'm still able to think about. So you also will definitely find your own path, and that's something important you must keep in mind.
Ma'am,
Sargam.
if I may, yes. As somebody on the other side who hasn't made it, I would see this a little bit differently. I wouldn't see the chance to keep taking attempt after attempt as necessarily the most positive thing in the world, given how low the probability of clearing also is. I, in fact, would caution people to hedge their bets and to start looking for some kind of backup, even if not a full time job. Perhaps start doing something they're passionate about, start building something, start building their social networks again, so that whenever they do decide to quit, they have an easier time, because otherwise it's really hard to come back into the world if you've burned all bridges with past employers, with friends, with professional networks, with your other skills. Because UPSC, you do learn a lot, but they're not directly transferable market skills per se that you can quantify to a potential employer. So that is something I would like to add from my perspective, being on this side of the exam. And another thing I would like to say is that the best outcomes that I've seen for people who couldn't clear were for those who had a set limit in mind in advance before writing the exam, rather than throwing one more attempt in a desperate attempt to perhaps make it next time. I don't know if I'm making complete sense of from where you are coming, but that is my viewpoint, having interacted with a lot of ex-aspirants and being having gone through that journey myself.
Sargam, I completely agree with you. And, that is why I said that it's not just about people who've exhausted attempts, it's also people whose life situation does not permit them, or who make a choice to walk away. Of course, there is always a choice. You always have a choice to walk away from something which is not working for you, which is spoiling your mental health. And that's very good and sane advice that you're giving to the listeners.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. That's all I wanted to understand, because I do think it's all because I think a lot of time this sense of martyrdom gets attached with the exam. Perhaps the coaching institutes promote it, that you are sacrificing your time for a larger cause by doing this. And perhaps many of us feel a sense of guilt when we decide to walk away from it. And everybody else also asks us, oh, you've only attempted twice or thrice, you've not exhausted all of your six attempts yet, or more attempts and six, then you should still seek for it. But I don't think that's always the best advice, especially when you consider it from the mental health perspective.
Sargam, can you hear me? Because I think I seem to have lost the connection or something. I'm not able to hear you.
Oh, ma'am,
Yeah, yeah,
yes, I
okay,
can
okay.
hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now I can hear you. I think there's something wrong with my connection. Yeah.
Okay,
So I'm
someone is
sorry.
requesting to speak. Shall I approve them and also
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
from
yeah.
them?
Please,
Right.
please go ahead.
Hi, Ambuj, I've approved you. You should be able to speak now.
Hello. Yes. So, good evening, everyone. And first of all, I want to thank you guys for you know initiating this. And like, I think back in September there was a session you guys conducted, and it made me and perhaps more people like me to reflect upon where our mental health is going. But I wanted to raise like two things, like how do we decide that where is the exit point? Because so as to prevent ourselves from falling into that gambler's fallacy, because sometimes we miss from a very short margin, be it prelims, mains, or sometimes in some cases interview also. And the other thing is that even if we take like 4 or 5 or 6 years, like Sargam also said, that there's a certain skill set which we are continuously losing. And if after a period of 6 years we are not able to make it into the service, technically we do not have any skill so that we can go into the market. And at times we are in the late 20s or early 30s. So how do we bounce back from those situations? Thank you.
Would you like to take that, or would you like me to take a shot at it first?
Sargam, I think you go ahead because this question is something that you'll be able to answer better.
All right, all right. And then
Yeah.
if anybody else has anything to add to that, please raise your hand. Jill, if you have anything to add, do unmute yourselves. So I would say, Ambuj, that in one of the sessions that we conducted, maybe you're talking about the same one, the psychologist that we had on board, who's an ex-UPSC aspirant herself, Arushi, she had mentioned that the best strategy is to go into the exam keeping an upper limit on the number of attempts that you'll give. It's same as the gambler's fallacy. You only take as much money as you're willing to lose, right? Otherwise, because the sunk costs get higher every year, you feel a little less confident about getting back to the job market. You think, okay, let me try another time. Maybe I'll make it this time because perhaps exit options are not as easily available. They seem further and further away the longer you stay away from the market. So yes, that's difficult. But to the second part, how do you do it when you do decide? Well, I think the best for me, I'll tell you how I left. I hadn't planned to leave altogether. I left when I realized that my anxiety is getting so bad, sitting holed up in a room and just studying day after day, that I'm actually not getting much studying done at all. And I knew for a fact that with that kind of preparation, I'm not going to be able to clear it. So I thought, let me take a break, let me take a job, and let me start talking to people again. Let me at least have a social life again, because I had also started to feel extremely isolated. So I started reaching out to all of my friends. I started telling them that I'm looking for a job. I did not know how to make a CV with gap years that had nothing to offer. I didn't know what skills I should say there were, but I still enrolled a few friends for help and I made a resume and I sent it out. Then one of my friends reached out to me with an opportunity that at that time was also suited for UPSC aspirant skills. That was purely by chance, but it doesn't have to be suited. What I didn't realize at that time was that I actually had a lot of skills, but because my mental health was in such dire straits, I was underselling myself by a wide margin. So we do tend to do that. It's not just me. I've seen hundreds of other ex-aspirants do the same thing. Um, Even if you're doing that, I would say just get started. Just tell people that you need their help and be shameless in asking for help. It is not a sign of weakness to ask for help. It really is a sign of strength and courage that you're willing to move forward and to acknowledge that you're not able to do it on your own right now is totally fine. That is what I would say. So I got my first job through one of my friends who heard of an opportunity through his friend who was looking for someone just like me. Does that answer your question, Ambuj?
Right. Yes. Yes. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. We have two other people who've requested. Shall I approve them, ma'am? Or would you like to add something to Ambuj's question?
No, Sargam, you answered it pretty well. And let's move on to, the next question.
We have Dr. Arpit here, and then Anubhav can go next. And Krishna, I am just approving you. You can go after Anubhav. Dr. Arpit, you may unmute yourself and ask us or comment.
Yeah, I would just like to
Good
say
evening.
one thing that life is very big and we should take life as a learning rather than success or failure. And UPSC is just a very small part of our life. तो बहुत ज़्यादा जो एंजाइटी है या बहुत ज़्यादा स्ट्रेस है वो लेने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। मुझे मालूम है दैट इज़ अ नेचुरल प्रोसेस और वो होगा भी, लेकिन इट इज़ नॉट द एंड ऑफ लाइफ। मेरा एक बहुत अच्छा दोस्त था, उसने शायद पूरे 5 या 6 अटेम्प्ट दिए यूपीएससी के, और जब उसका लास्ट अटेम्प्ट नहीं हुआ तो मतलब ही वॉज वेरी इमोशनली बैलेंस्ड। उसने कहा कि नहीं, अब मेरे लिए कुछ और अच्छा लिखा होगा, और अभी वो फिर वर्ल्ड बैंक में चला गया एंड ही इज डूइंग वेरी गुड वर्क देयर। तो मैं फिर बोल रहा हूँ कि जो लाइफ है उसको बहुत ज़्यादा हम एक्चुअली, एक तो फियर ऑफ अननोन होता है। जो 99% चीज़ें लाइफ में नहीं होना है उसका हमको बहुत ज़्यादा फियर होता है। ठीक है ना? हम सबकी लाइफ में होता होगा कि हम जो बुरा सोचते हैं वो 99% कभी होगा ही नहीं। तो फियर ऑफ अननोन से हमको ऊपर उठना चाहिए। और जो नंबर 2 ये है कि जो प्रेजेंट मोमेंट है उसको एंजॉय करना चाहिए। ठीक है ना? और डेफिनेटली मेंटल हेल्थ पे इंडिया में उतना वर्क नहीं है, तो अगर आपको लगता है कि आप बहुत स्ट्रेस में है या कोई इशू है, तो यू शुड गो फॉर साइकोलॉजिकल काउंसलिंग और टू ए गुड साइकेट्रिस्ट। मतलब दैट इज वेरी प्रिवलेंट इन वेस्टर्न कल्चर एंड वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड। मतलब मैं ये बोलूंगा इंडिया में उतना है नहीं, तो बट देयर शुड बी सम मेंटर इन योर लाइफ। इट कैन बी योर पेरेंट और इट कैन बी एनी टीचर, जो आपको सही टाइम पे जब भी आप डिस्ट्रेस फील करें या लो फील करें तो आप उनसे बात कर पाए। तो वो एक बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है। और मैंने फिर बताया कि मैं तो मतलब आई एम ए वेरी स्पिरिचुअल पर्सन एंड आई फॉलो लॉर्ड कृष्णा एंड आई फॉलो इस्कॉन। तो मुझे ये लगता है कि हमसे पहले भी करोड़ों लोग आ गए यहाँ पे, हमारे बाद भी करोड़ों लोग आएंगे, और ऐसे करोड़ों साल पहले टाइम निकल चुका है और आगे भी होगा। तो हमारा बहुत ही माइन्यूट सा, मतलब बहुत ही मिनिमल सा एग्जिस्टेंस है, अगर हम पूरे यूनिवर्स को इन द फ्रेम ऑफ टाइम एंड स्पेस देखें। और उसको भी अगर हम एंजॉय नहीं कर पा रहे हैं तो फिर मतलब वो भी बेकार हो जाता है। हम हार्डली 60-70 साल जीते हैं, तो हमारा बहुत ही नेग्लिजिबल सा एग्जिस्टेंस है इस यूनिवर्स में। उसको हमको फुली एंजॉय करना चाहिए। और इवन आफ्टर क्लियरिंग द एग्जाम, मैं फिर बता रहा हूँ कि वंस यू वन क्लियर द यूपीएससी ऑल्सो देर आर अप्स एंड डाउन्स। और कई बार जो शायद आपका यूपीएससी में सिलेक्शन के बाद जो स्ट्रेस आ रहा है उससे कई गुना ज्यादा स्ट्रेस आपका सर्विस में होता है। मतलब मेरा पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस रहा है कि कई बार एक्सट्रीमली स्ट्रेसफुल सिचुएशन होती है। तो यू नीड टू बी मेंटली रिसिलियंट एंड हमेशा अपने फिजिकल वेलबींग, अपने मेंटल वेलबींग, अपने इमोशनल वेलबींग और अपने स्पिरिचुअल वेलबींग, इन चारों पे हम लोगों को काम करते रहना चाहिए। और बहुत सारे जो है, अगर स्ट्रेस होता है तो उसको डिस्ट्रेस करने के लिए हमारा हमेशा कोई ना कोई वो होना चाहिए, कि कोई वॉल्व होना चाहिए कि हम कैसे इसको डिस्ट्रेस करें। कई लोगों को म्यूजिक बहुत अच्छा लगता है, कई लोगों को बुक रीडिंग अच्छा लगता है, किसी का कोई मेंटर है, कोई चाहे तो किसी साइकोलॉजिस्ट से काउंसलिंग के लिए जा सकता है। और अगेन मैं बोल रहा हूँ, काउंसलिंग इज वेरी वेरी हेल्पफुल, क्योंकि मेरे कई दोस्त हैं जो साइकेट्रिस्ट हैं या जो साइकोलॉजिस्ट हैं, तो मैं उनसे बात करता हूँ तो इवन मुझे कई चीज़ों को लेकर क्लैरिटी आती है। ठीक है? मैं अभी रिसेंटली एक कोर्स कर रहा हूँ, द साइंस ऑफ वेलबींग। वो येल यूनिवर्सिटी का है, काफी इट इज अ वेरी कोवेटेड एंड वेरी प्रेस्टिजियस कोर्स। तो इट इज साइंस ऑफ वेलबींग, फ्रीली अवेलेबल है कोर्सेरा पे। तो उसमें क्लियर कट डाटा दिखाया गया है कि जो कॉलेज में हमारी डेफिनेशन ऑफ हैप्पीनेस होती है वो चेंज हो जाती है शायद 20 साल बाद। एंड दे हैव डन प्रॉपर स्टडीज, देयर इज प्रॉपर डाटा एनालिटिक्स ऑन हैप्पीनेस, ऑन वेलबींग। तो उसमें यही है कि विद टाइम टाइम हमारी हमेशा प्रायोरिटी चेंज हो जाएंगी। और कई बार जो हमको अभी बुरा लग रहा है, बाद में पता चलता है कि यार ये तो बहुत अच्छा हो गया मेरे साथ। तो हम कई बार जब पीछे देखते हैं तो लगता है कि नहीं नहीं, ये अच्छा हुआ उस टाइम मेरा सिलेक्शन नहीं हुआ, या उस टाइम। तो अगेन आई एम सेइंग कि लाइफ एक बहुत बड़ा फिनोमेना है, हमारा छोटा सा एग्जिस्टेंस है। उसको कोशिश करिए कि कितना हम जॉयफुली रह सकते हैं, कितना एंजॉय कर सकते हैं। और हमारा जो जॉय है दैट शुड नॉट डिपेंडेंट ऑन एनी सर्कमस्टेंस और एनी अदर पर्सन। अगेन आई एम सेइंग, मैं अपियर थ्योरेटिकल टू ऑल ऑफ यू, बट यस, आगे हमको लाइफ में उसको जो है कोशिश करना चाहिए कि कैसे हम उसको लाइफ में अप्लाई करें, ताकि अल्टीमेटली हमारा पर्पस होना कि जॉयफुली रहना है और हमको किसी को सफरिंग कॉज नहीं करना है। जो मेरा जॉय है दैट शुड नॉट बी कॉज ऑफ सफरिंग टू एनी क्रिएचर और एनी अदर ह्यूमन बीइंग। ये मेरी फिलोसफी है। तो मेरा खुद इनर कंटेनमेंट होना चाहिए, इनर पीस होना चाहिए, एक जॉयफुल लाइफ होना चाहिए, और मेरी ये भी कोशिश होना चाहिए कि मैं वर्ल्ड की जो सफरिंग है उनको मिनिमाइज करूं। तो उसके लिए बहुत सारे प्लेटफॉर्म है। यूपीएससी इज जस्ट वन ऑफ द प्लेटफॉर्म। इट इज not at all your life, and not getting selected in the UPSC or not clearing exam is not the end of life. You have multiple opportunities, and once you suppose you are not able to clear, then बहुत सारे अलग दूसरे dimensions है, बहुत सारे दूसरे अच्छी चीजें जो आपके लिए ओपन है उसके बाद भी। बट फिर मैंने कहा कि हमेशा फिजिकल, मेंटल, इमोशनल, स्पिरिचुअल वेलबींग पे अपना ध्यान रखें कि हमको उसमें कभी भी पीछे नहीं छूटना है। हमेशा कोशिश करिए कि हर मोमेंट में, डिस्पाइट ऑफ एनी सर्कमस्टेंस, डिस्पाइट ऑफ एनी सिचुएशन, डिस्पाइट ऑफ कोई दूसरे पर्सन पे आपका जॉयफुलनेस डिपेंड नहीं होना चाहिए, और कोशिश करिए हम किसी की सफरिंग कॉज ना करें। तो मेरा तो यही फिलोसफी है। थैंक्स अ लॉट।
Thank you, Dr. Arpit. That was very insightful, especially the part where you said that job में आने के बाद भी आपको उससे भी ज़्यादा stressful events face करने पड़े, तो mental resilience and taking care, prioritizing your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is key. I think that was very helpful for me at least. I hope for the listeners as well. Ma'am, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, there are a couple of things I would like to add. The first thing is that, uh, the advice about wellness is, um, for people who do not have mental disorders. Let's be very clear about that, because sometimes the pressure to be happy or the pressure to be joyful is not commensurate with the brain of the changed brain of a person who has, let us say, depression or any of these anxiety disorders. So there's a difference between anxiety and anxiety disorder. There's a difference between sadness and depressive disorder. So ye thoda sa, I just wanted to bring this across, because a lot of times we tend to become prescriptive that you should be happy this way, but it's not possible for someone who has depression. It's not just happiness, it's a host of things. So that was one thing. Now the other part which I want to just underline what was just said by Dr. Arpit is that it is, your career is one thing in life. It's only one thing in life. You are still serving the nation even if you're not working for the government. Like the place where I work, there are a lot of young professionals. Some of them even have gone to foreign universities to study there. They've come back, they're working here, they're also working for the government, they're also working for the nation. Someone who is working in the corporate sector and creating wealth is also working for the nation. So I think we need to relook at this whole concept of working for the nation, because we all working for the nation. And at the same time, let's also be very clear that we are all also working for ourselves, because the civil services, as I mentioned earlier, also is also employment, is a job. You get a salary with it, you need to run your house. Now when you start working, don't get into those, those videos which are like, साहब ऐसे कर रहे हैं, मैडम ऐसे कर रही हैं. No, those are very carefully crafted and let us say curated to show to the world what life of a civil servant is about. Because as far as I'm concerned, I get up in the morning, I have my breakfast and get ready, I go to office, then I work the whole day. And it's not very glamorous because there's work, you have to put in the work. And I come back home, I'm so tired. And I also have children, and I'm sure it's the same with a lot of other civil servants. You have a family, you have children, you see to it what they're doing, you have to arrange your grocery, you have to get food made. That is just this regular business of living. That's also a part of a civil servant's life. You also fall sick, you also have to go to the hospital sometimes, consult a doctor. There are so many things. You have parents falling ill, you have children falling ill, you are basically what we this phenomenon that we call in Hindi, घर गृहस्थी का चक्कर. तो घर गृहस्थी का चक्कर तो रहता ही है, वो जो चक्की पीसिंग एंड पीसिंग वो हम करते हैं अपने रोज की जिंदगी में. So it is not just about serving the nation. Of course, that's a part of the civil services, but that's not all. And there was a time I was so sick. I had such a severe, form of depression. I could not get out of bed for 3 to 4 days, except just to go and use the washroom. All my meals were brought to bed. I was not going to office. I was in no shape to even take care of my children. It was this bad. So at that time, my career, it just didn't matter. All I wanted was to just feel all right on one single day. I wanted to feel just all right for 1 hour. I just wanted to be a proper mother who would just do everything for their children, a proper wife who would take care of her husband, all the different roles that I, a daughter who would take care of all the parents needs. So this is all I wanted, just 1 hour of normal mood, which was not there for me. So that is also something that is a part of life. And when I came back from my leave, when I recovered, when I joined back, so my job, it was just like taking the UPSC and clearing it all over again, because I really didn't know whether I'll ever be able to work or not. I didn't know if I'll ever be able to walk or not. So these things happen. So just like not clearing the civil services happened, even after clearing the services, even after having all-rounded, well-rounded life, that's also something that happened to me. So things can happen.
Thank you, ma'am, for that insightful piece of advice. What is also interesting is that you mentioned there is a distinction between anxiety and anxiety disorders. So, for the benefit of our listeners, could you elaborate on that and tell us how to spot the difference and what is the difference?
Definitely. Thanks, Jill, for the question. So, anxiety is a normal kind of feeling. All of us feel anxious from time to time. Like if you have a big exam coming up, or you have some big event happening, or there is someone ill and you're worried about them. So, worry, fear, anxiety, these are all maybe synonyms or different degrees of the same kind of emotion where you feel fearful, and sometimes your hands and feet they go cold, you get sweating, and that's how it is. So but then this when this happens without any apparent reason, or maybe with an apparent reason, and it's so much that you're not able to figure out what is triggering it, you're not able to figure out why you're feeling anxious without any apparent reason. And if you get something called an anxiety attack or a panic attack, where it can take on different forms for different people. Like some people again feel their hands and feet going cold, sweaty. Some people are not able to breathe. Sometimes people feel pain in their chest, and they're not able to speak. They just feel very confused. They stand frozen in place. So these are some symptoms of anxiety disorder. And again, the difference is that anxiety is something that's normal, that a lot of people feel, that a lot of people face whenever they are faced with some challenge. But anxiety disorder can sometimes, it can bring on an anxiety attack or panic attack just out of the blue. And obviously, some situation which is anxiety provoking, someone with anxiety disorder will feel it much more magnified than someone who's just experiencing normal anxiety. This was the difference in very layman's terms. And anyone who's interested in knowing more about it, there are a lot of resources that you can look at on the internet to understand the exact difference.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. If we could move to a set of questions or comments, Aditya, I think we've allowed you to speak. If you want to go ahead and.
Yeah. Hello. Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Oh,
Please go ahead.
okay. So I have been preparing for UPSC for some time. Even I went up to the interview for interview stage couple of years ago. But after that, I could not clear, and I was not able to concentrate on the studies, or could not get success for 2 continuous years because of some anxiety and mental issues caused because of financial and family issues. And now my age is 27, and I have few attempts left, but I uh, I will not be able to prepare full time and I think I should prepare with a job in IT industry because I am a computer engineer from government college in Pune. But I hesitate to take decision between full-time preparation and a preparation with a job. My personal inclination is towards preparation with a job because of responsibilities and some risk involved. So my question is, how hard will it be to prepare UPSC with a typical IT industry job, and will I be be able to sustain the mental pressure or the preparation?
So that's a very specific question on how you'll be able to balance a job in a particular industry with preparation. Anyone in this space who wants to take it? And Shubhrata ma'am, if you have anything to add in terms of a generic guideline that you could give in any form, or anyone else who wants to say anything, add anything to this.
Yeah, I really honestly think I will not be able to. I'm not the right person to answer this. So, anyone else who is preparing right now, and maybe if they have a job also at the same time, perhaps they'll be better able to answer this.
Right, right. Anyone who wants to add anything can please raise their hand and let us know while we also take other questions from Merit right now. Do you want to go ahead and speak? Yeah.
Yeah, and then see, generally the mental health is thought of as an individual problem, but actually there was see, I had got an public library was just beside my house, so all the old things, books and other things I kept on reading during my younger days. Then I came across a very interesting survey which the colonies at that time did. So it was a there was they did a survey throughout India. So the question which they asked at that particular time was test. So they did this test. Who am I test? Then throughout India, the people responded. If an engineer told that, okay, I am an engineer. Doctor told I'm a doctor. A teacher. A sweeper is a sweeper. But in only Maharashtra, you found a very strange answer which was coming out of it. One was identification with religion, and other was identification with the caste. Then the colonial British at that time they told that something is wrong there. So this kind of psychological aberration, it is not, and then it was, and then they studied it at the state level. So in this state, it is actually happening that way. But I think now the same thing has spread throughout India, and then you find that these two opposite tendencies. So if there was one Savarkar, there was also an Ambedkar, and then all the organizations which was there, like RSS, and all Maharashtra based. So this psychology has spread throughout India. So that's very this one means a mass psychology problem. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for that comment. Uh, we had a couple of more questions. Huda Shah, if you could go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question. Huda, please.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, I have started the preparation since 2 years for this exam. But the year 2021 was not a fruitful one, I can say. I went through a very severe mental breakdown. I couldn't concentrate on my studies, and I totally lost the track. I missed an attempt because of this. I am recovering slowly. I am feeling better, but uh, more or less I'm feeling that the consequences are still there. Sometimes I'm still not able to concentrate on my studies the way I used to be. So if you could suggest something like I'm not able to focus if I place a book right in front of me, I cannot recall It's like that I have totally lost the focus and the concentration power. Please suggest something if there is some mental exercise or anything else.
Ma'am, anything that you can think of that you can provide as a suggestion?
Uh, may I come in here at this stage?
Yes, yes, ma'am, please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So, it appears as if you may be having some mental health issues, and what I would suggest is that if you have access to mental health care, if you can speak to a professional, maybe a psychiatrist or a counselor or a psychologist, I would really, recommend that, because that person will be able to help you, bring out whatever is inside you, something which is triggering you, and they will be able to help you. And anyone who's struggling with their mental health, anyone who's here, see, let us just not let stigma keep us from accessing mental health care. And if you have access, please do seek mental health care, because something which starts small can later on become big. So why not, just like for physical illnesses, we say that stitching time saves nine. Like, if you catch it early, you get treatment, you get better. So I'm not a professional, I'm not diagnosing you, I'm just making a suggestion that if it is possible, please do reach out to a mental health professional who will be able to help you with mental health. Do not let stigma keep you back.
Right. Thank you for that, ma'am. Ayush and Rohit, two more. So, Ayush, do you want to go next? You can unmute yourself and go ahead. All right, Rohit, are you there?
Yeah, yeah,
You want to go ahead? Yes.
yeah, sure. Hi guys. Thanks for the opportunity. So my question was mainly regarding, so once an aspirant decides to move on after giving his best attempts, because of better career opportunities, or in with regards to his mental health. So how does he, I think this is a common problem, or not so common, but how does he convey that to his parents, who might have had the hopes of him clearing? I'm not talking about parental pressure here, but mostly like a disappointment, that their kid couldn't clear the UPSC, and that hopes might be guilt tripping me into another attempt, when me or any other aspirant in another attempt, when we have better opportunities. And talking in terms of mental health, I don't think yet has reached such mainstream in Indian families. So I mean, just wanted any perspective on that, if anyone has dealt with that.
Ma'am, do you have anything to say on guilt tripping in particular?
Yes, I was just thinking about that. So, Rohit, the issue is that this comes into the actual territory of counseling and therapy, and I'm not a professional, so I don't think it would be prudent for me to suggest strategies here. But what I would suggest is that, again, if you have access to a psychologist or a counselor, maybe you can have this discussion with them, and they can help you figure out how to talk to your parents about it, and maybe have a family counseling session also, because that's also possible. And I completely get what you're saying about parents not being so open to the whole idea of people having mental health and people having bad mental health. And, we still go by these, the age old paradigms of mental strength, mental weakness, mental resilience. And I completely get you there. But, this is something that you can do, that you can actually ask a professional as to how you can go about doing this, and if possible, even have a family counseling session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for that. Yeah, it actually caught me off guard when you said that guilt tripping comes under counseling. I had never, thought
Yeah.
about that angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ashwath, you want to go next?
Yeah, I okay. So I just want to speak about my experience from the past. I attended a session by Shows Beyond UPSC in October when I didn't clear my prelims last year, and since then, even in that very this limited space, when a space was provided for me to seek something which resembles therapy, it gave me the courage to move on from my UPSC prep. I got myself a job. I started smiling again. Life started being good. So, my point here is that we must, as is being said here, we must attempt to uh, get the help we need. Even a minor change can have a big effect on your mental health and in general and life in general for you. It may look very different from my trajectory. I will admit that I don't prescribe myself as some sort of model, but even so, I feel like this the fact that we have a platform like this itself is very beneficial. um, and I urge everyone to seek their own forms. Of course, this is also me being privileged in saying things like this. I completely do understand people have different settings that they come from. People have different problems that I may not understand. I'm completely mindful of that. But it's also, I feel like this is also for us a prerogative to survive in a cruel world. And this is one of our tools. And for that, I'm very grateful for Shows Beyond UPSC to begin with. And yeah, I would restate the importance of why this is so important, because I've seen the wonders it has worked, at least for my life. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Ashwath. And we're so glad that the platform that we provide here can be of use to aspirants like all of us. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much,
joining.
Ashwath. I remember that we first interacted during the first mental health session that we had held, which was after the prelims result. And we had a long conversation over the phone as well. I'm so glad that since then, in just the span of a few months, you've made so much progress and that we've been able to help you so much that you, unprompted, spoke about this. And this is actually a very pleasant surprise right now. So thank you. You made my day as well.
Right. Thank you. I think we have one more question coming from Shubham. Do you want to unmute yourself and go ahead?
Hello, good evening, everyone. This question is to Shubhra, ma'am. Ma'am, we are in a society when this mental health issue is still a taboo, and in families like we have our juniors, so we don't want to become an example that we are suffering from such kind of anxiety issues or mental depression, and family also do not understand at many times when the result came. There are newspapers advertisement that if you want, even one seat is required if you want to get into the services, and just why not just keep on, one day will come when these kind of things surfaces over social media and all. However, I have dealt with this all, but this is something for my friends who are suffering from these kind of issues, who just lost the race with very couple of marks. So, what is your advice for them? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. And yes, I completely agree that it is difficult to have mental health conversations in our society. And that is precisely one of the factors that spurs me on to normalize the conversations, including the one that we're having right now. Now, yes, I also agree that we have these very specific thoughts in society, and the elderly are more they identify more with those thoughts. Again, this whole thing about mental weakness, mental strength, resilience, and being an example for youngsters, as you said, that someone who has mental health problems. They can never be an example, or hiding things from youngsters. I really don't know. I don't have any answer immediately, instantly, but this is a fight that we have to keep fighting. I am fighting this too, to spread awareness. And as you said, I was an example when I was a child, and then when I was young, as someone who's very brilliant and hard work, achiever, etc., etc. Sorry, I'm just speaking about myself, because this is just to illustrate your own point. So people used to say that about me. And then when I had depression, I don't know how the extended, I've heard a lot about how weak I am, and uh, I should be grateful for things in life. And there is a lot. I cannot, if you ever happen to read my book, you'll read my own journey about how difficult it was, and how the stigma and all these harsh and these comments were further hampering my recovery, and I was feeling even worse. First of all, I was sick. It was not something that I had chosen. It was not a choice. It was something that happened to me. And then people, instead of helping me, are just, it was something like victim blaming. Like if crime happens to a woman, they say that, okay, she must have done something. So it's kind of the same when it comes to mental health. There's a lot of victim shaming, that the person who is fallen ill has is weak, and they are not resilient. And that wasn't true about me. And in fact, why should it be true about any person? Which human being is weak? Why should we call any human being weak? So this is one fight that we have to keep fighting. And one thing that I can say is that something like depression is not permanent. It's not something that's going to sort of finish your life or finish your career. I just gave my own example. I was so sick, I couldn't get out of bed. And now that I'm, after I got better, I started working again. I work 15 hours a day. Even now, after we finish this session, I am going to be sitting on two important notes that I have to finish for office tomorrow. So that is it. I mean, it's just something. See, people get flu. The flu may last for a week or 10 days, and then they get better, and then it's onwards. So something like depression may last longer. Again, it depends from person to person, but it's not something that is shameful. It's not that the person who has depression is weak, or not resilient, or not grateful. And most of all, it is not a choice. And that is why I keep talking about the neurological correlates of behavior, that how the brain changes when someone has depression. And if you're interested, please do read a lot of, I do keep posting a lot of articles, and not just me. There's a lot of resources on how these days we see mental health issues and as biopsychosocial problems. In fact, the determinants of mental health are, biopsychosocial. Someone has a different brain makeup, and the brain structures, the electrical activity, and the neurotransmitters. Then people have different personalities, different ways of thinking. That is also not the person's choice. It's how you've been brought up, and how what inputs have gone into your life all along. You may have imbibed something without being even conscious of it. And then, of course, the social circumstances, like, it's different for everyone. And social stressors, they do interact with the other factors. It's somewhere at the intersection that these things happen. So this message is something that we need to keep saying and repeating again and again. And as far as being an example for younger cousins and all, let me tell you, younger children are much, much more aware these days. They are very conscious about mental health. They talk about mental health. They are more open about mental health. And that's really something that's, it's a very encouraging sign. So I hope that we'll reach a day when there'll absolutely be no shame and stigma in talking about mental health.
Right. Thank you for that, ma'am. It's important to note that we can be resilient and still have depression or anxiety disorders. I think that is one of the most important things that should stand out from what ma'am just said, apart from the other things. We have one more question from Archit. Please unmute yourself and go ahead. Archit.
Hello,
Yeah.
hello, hello.
Yeah, you're audible. You are
Yeah,
audible. Please go ahead.
yeah. Good,
Yes.
good, good evening, everyone. Ma'am, can I speak in Hindi?
Sure, please.
मैम एक्चुअली मैं 4 साल से प्रिपरेशन कर रहा हूँ यूपीएससी की. आई पास्ड आउट इन 2018. मैंने बीटेक किया हुआ है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एंड कम्युनिकेशन से. मैम आई appeared फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम इन माय कॉलेज लास्ट ईयर इन 2018 ओनली. देन आफ्टर आई वाज प्रिपेयरिंग वेरी वेल. प्रिपरेशन बहुत अच्छी जा रही थी मेरी. आई क्लियर्ड यूपीपीसीएस आल्सो, बट आई डिडंट मेक थ्रू मेंस. बट उसके बाद एक्चुअली आई वाज इन अ रिलेशनशिप. उसके बाद कुछ रिलेशनशिप का मतलब आई गॉट अ ब्रेकअप एंड देन उसके बाद मैम यूपीएससी की प्रिपरेशन बहुत ज़्यादा हैम्पर हुई. एंड देन उसके बाद 2 साल कोविड आया तो मैं एक्चुअली उस प्रिपरेशन से आउट ही हो गया था. तो अभी मैं ऐसी पोजीशन आ गई है कि मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि मुझे एमएस करना चाहिए, या मेरे माइंड में थॉट्स आते हैं या मैं एमएस कर लूँ या तो एमबीए कर लूँ, या फिर उसके बाद अगर मेरा अलाइनमेंट एक्चुअली यूपीएससी की तरफ ही है. तो आई वाज थिंकिंग कि मैं फिर से फ्रेश स्टार्ट करूं या ना करूं, बिकॉज ये मेरा 5th अटेम्प्ट होगा. तो आई वाज थिंकिंग कि मैं दिल्ली जाके फ्रेश स्टार्ट कोई फाउंडेशन कोर्स कोचिंग करूं. इज इट फीजिबल करना चाहिए या मुझे किसी और लाइन में जाना चाहिए?
Thank you, Archit, for that. Sargam, Shubhrata ma'am, any of you can take it. Also, just to add, he mentioned relationship issues. So if you could just highlight any other point that comes to your mind when you talk about preparation and losing friendships and relationships and general social isolation while preparation.
अर्चित, आपकी एक्चुअली पूरा आपकी बात मैं सुन नहीं पाई. पता नहीं, शायद मेरे कनेक्शन में ही कुछ प्रॉब्लम है. आपकी आवाज थोड़ा रुक रुक कर आ रही थी. बट
ओके.
मैंने काफी कुछ आपका सुन लिया. आपने जो बोला, और आपने ये भी बोला कि आप भाषा हिंदी प्रेफर करेंगे. तो अर्चित, अगर आपको थोड़ा सा भी ऐसा लगता है कि आप अभी भी अपने ब्रेकअप से और अपने किसी भी और निजी परेशानी से जूझ रहे हैं, और आपका मानसिक स्वास्थ्य बहुत अच्छा नहीं है, अगर आपको ऐसा लगता है कि शायद आप डिप्रेशन या एंजाइटी जैसी कोई चीज आपको हो रही है, लेकिन आप परेशान हैं, तो मेरा ये सुझाव होगा कि अगर आप किसी साइकाइट्रिस्ट से मिल सकें तो प्लीज कृपया मिल लें. क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ एक ये भी
मैम
नहीं, एक एक ये
मैम
हम. हम्म.
मैम एक्चुअली मेरा थेरेपी चल रहा है. मैं थेरेपी सेशन ले रहा
हाँ, तो वेरी गुड, बहुत बहुत
हूँ
बढ़िया है.
सिंस.
बहुत बढ़िया.
जी.
तो ये तो आप बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं, और आपको वो बहुत हेल्प करेगा कि आपको क्या करना है, कैसे करना है. तो और आपके आगे के अटेम्प्ट्स या आपको आगे क्या करना है, वही उस पर मैं नहीं बोल पाऊंगी, क्योंकि मुझे तो सिविल सर्विसेज दिए बहुत साल हो गए. बट अगर अभी कोई और अगर एस्पिरेंट आपको कुछ उस पर सुझाव देना चाहे, तो मैं माइक उनके लिए छोड़ रही हूँ.
ओके, थैंक यू मैम.
अर्पित,
Thank
मैं
you.
भी इतना अर्चित, आई वुड जस्ट से कि ये आपका पर्सनल डिसीजन है, कोई और आपको नहीं कह सकता. लेकिन मैं सिर्फ इतना कहूंगी कि अगर आप डिसाइड करते हैं आगे के अटेम्प्ट्स देना, तो साथ में पार्ट टाइम जॉब देखना शुरू कर दीजिए, फ्रीलांसिंग शुरू कर दीजिए. कुछ ऐसा फुल टाइम में नहीं कहूंगी, क्योंकि आप ऑलरेडी मेंटल हेल्थ इश्यूज से डील कर रहे हैं, तो आपके लिए स्ट्रेस और बर्डन अभी बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाएगा. जब आपका मेंटल हेल्थ बेटर होगा तो आप फुल टाइम जॉब भी देख सकते हैं. लेकिन अभी आप कुछ ना कुछ करना शुरू कर दीजिए, ताकि आप यूपीएससी के अलावा भी एक और डोमेन अपनी लाइफ में क्रिएट कर रहे हैं, और धीरे धीरे विद टाइम उसमें सक्सेस देख रहे हैं. जब आप स्मॉल डेली माइलस्टोन्स में प्रोग्रेस करते हैं, अपने आप को देखेंगे. यू ये यूपीएससी और नथिंग वाला जो वो हो जाता है ना, बहुत एंजाइटी इंड्यूसिंग सिचुएशन क्रिएट हो जाता है, उसका इंटेंसिटी थोड़ा कम हो जाएगा.
ओके.
और
ओके.
रिलेशनशिप इश्यूज के बारे में मैं कुछ नहीं कह सकती. आप जैसा कि शुभ्रता मैम ने भी कहा, आपके थेरेपिस्ट आपको बेटर हेल्प कर पाएंगे.
ओके. ओके मैम, थैंक यू सो मच.
और
थैंक
मैं
यू
यहाँ पर
अर्चित,
बस
ऑल द
एक
बेस्ट.
चीज ऐड करना चाहूंगी. ये सिर्फ अर्चित के लिए नहीं, बट जो भी सुन रहे हैं उनके लिए, कि हमने ये एक धारणा बना रखी है कि साइकाइट्रिस्ट या साइकोलॉजिस्ट या काउंसलर या थेरेपिस्ट के पास सिर्फ वही लोग जाते हैं जो पागल हैं, या जिन्हें कोई मेंटल हेल्थ की प्रॉब्लम है, जिसको हम बहुत ही गंदे तरीके से कहते हैं कि वो तो मेंटल है. तो ये बात सही नहीं है. अगर हम किसी भी समस्या से जूझ रहे हैं और ऐसा लग रहा है कि वो थोड़ा हमारे लिए खुद से जूझना मुश्किल हो रहा है, क्योंकि हम इंसान हैं, हमारी भी लिमिटेशंस है, हमारी भी सीमाएं हैं, तो किसी भी प्रोफेशनल से, साइकाइट्रिस्ट, साइकोलॉजिस्ट, काउंसलर, थेरेपिस्ट से सिर्फ बात करना या थेरेपी लेना, इसमें कोई भी बुराई नहीं है, इसमें कोई शर्म नहीं होनी चाहिए।
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Garima, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Sargam. Thanks, ma'am, for sharing, your insightful thoughts on mental health. So, ma'am, my question is not kind of pertaining to the UPSC results. It is for the it is towards the broader mental health issue. I mean, is it okay if I raise the issue, raise my concern here?
Please go ahead, Garima.
Okay, thanks. So I heard, the speakers here talking about, destigmatizing mental health. I've read a lot about this also, but how about a situation where a patient is under some kind of a doubt of not coming out in the open, even to his or her family members, and admit that something is wrong with him or her. I mean, you see, it's not that easy even in this aging time to come out and accept that there is something wrong in their lives and that they need help. So, in such a situation, what would you suggest, ma'am?
See, again, let me first qualify my statement with saying that I'm not a professional and I'm just giving very general suggestions on this. So I do get asked this question very often in a lot of forums where I speak, that what do we do with people who are not yet ready to acknowledge that they have a problem or the fact that they need help. Now, it's difficult. Indeed, it's really difficult. So obviously there are this is something that has to be dealt at three levels. Now I would say at the level of the individual, if you can gently nudge them or gently coax, not no, I wouldn't even say coax, I would say gently nudge them towards the fact that probably they need help and they're not realizing it. And of course this has to come from someone who's close to them, who can listen, who they would listen to. And it's a little tricky, and honestly there's no one size fits all. It's there's no formula for it ki ghutti banakar pila di, we cannot do that. But this is one thing, if it's possible, this is one thing that needs to be done. The second thing is that in terms of the family and friends circle, now if this person feels that the family and the friend circle is a safe space, so they might be more inclined to talk about what they're going through and more inclined to come out and speak about freely about their mental health. And of course at the larger society level, that is the change that we need to bring about as a society, that the whole of society becomes a safe space for people who might have mental disorders or who definitely have mental disorders to come out and speak. So
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. This was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Garima. Samrid, please unmute yourself and go ahead with your question.
Yeah, so basically my question is actually this is my second attempt at UPSC. So last time I had given the attempt, but as everyone knows, these days the exam is becoming so uncertain. So there is a lot of associated anxiety with the prelims that is coming up. So actually, I wanted to ask how to deal with this anxiety issue about the unpredictable nature of the exam. And I would just like to add that one more issue that comes is that many of my own batchmates and people who have studied with me, they've actually cleared the exam and become IAS officers, and now that peer pressure is also, I mean, adding up to that. So I just wanted to ask how to deal with that in the coming 3 4 days.
Samrit, again, I would say that, if possible, if you have access to a therapist or a counselor, there's just no harm in, just going and talking to them, and everything that's, all of this, the peer pressure and the anxiety that you're feeling. Now, feeling anxious about an exam now, first of all, that there is definitely the natural component. Anyone feels nervous before an exam, but if it is something that's that you feel that is making you dysfunctional, you're not able to function because of that, so it would make a lot of sense if you have access, someone who can just talk to you and help you with some of those exercises, like the breathing exercises, the grounding exercises that can help you deal with anxiety. That's the first thing. The second thing is, the peer pressure, it's there. So um it's something that, if again, I would say that if you're able to tell yourself that that doesn't matter, what matters is your life, what do you want, what are your capabilities, and how you're going to handle this, for a moment, if you can kind of just think that there's no one around you, it's just you, and ultimately it is. So if you can do this by yourself, just go ahead. But if not, then do think about just talking to a counselor who can help you get over these thoughts that are there in your mind.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, there are two more people, so if we could just go ahead with two last questions, would that be okay, ma'am?
Yeah, I think we can take one last speaker, and I think then we can maybe wind up for today.
Sure, sure. All right. So one last question. Is that okay? We'll go ahead with Brijesh, who's already been allowed to speak. Brijesh, can you go ahead with your question? Hopefully, we keep it short and then wind up.
हेलो हेलो
Hello.
मैम आवाज आ
Please
रही
go ahead. हाँ आवाज आ रही है आप प्लीज हाँ
है एक्चुअली क्या मैम मेरा नाम ब्रजेश है मैं 2 अटेम्प्ट दे चुका हूँ इंटरव्यू मेरा इस बार भी रह गया इंटरव्यू देने के बाद मेरा सिलेक्शन नहीं हुआ है और हिंदी मीडियम से हूँ अब थोड़ा नर्वस आने मेरे दिमाग अपसेट हो रहा है और आत्मविश्वास मेरा स्लो कॉन्फिडेंस लो हो गया है कृपया गाइड करें मुझे इस बारे पर
Thank you, Brijesh. Shubhrata ma'am, do you want to end with your concluding thoughts on confidence issues in
Yes.
general? And yeah.
हाँ हाँ, क्योंकि वही वही मैं आपको भी वही बोलूंगी जो मैंने एक दो लोगों को और बोला है, दैट मैं जनरल सी बातें तो कह सकती हूँ, बट मैं चूंकि लाइसेंस थेरेपिस्ट या काउंसलर नहीं हूँ, तो मैं आपके बातों का, आपके सवाल का बहुत स्पष्ट और बहुत पॉइंटेड जवाब नहीं दे सकूंगी। तो उसके लिए मुझे माफ करें, बिकॉज मैं नहीं, आई एम नॉट क्वालिफाइड टू डू दैट. So now, just to end with the general remarks, is that again, I would say that mental health is really important, and any of you who's struggling with their mental health right now, please go ahead. Please, if you have access, do reach a professional who can help you. And even if it is something as severe as depression or anxiety disorder, there is help available, there is treatment available. With all of this, you can just lead a good life, whether you're in the services or not in the civil services, or whatever path you choose in life, whatever comes to you. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that, there's so much more to life, and this is just one of the things in life, and this doesn't define who you are or what are the possibilities or probabilities in your life. And just think of this as something that didn't happen, and leave it at that. And my best wishes to everyone who's listening in. And of course, like, one very important point that I wanted to make, again, caution, I'm going to mention the word suicide, that in case you or anyone that you know is having suicidal ideation. There are these helplines. I know because one of them is I call, one is Sneha. There are a lot of these helplines. I think the Ministry of Social Justice also has a helpline for distress. So please do reach out. If you cannot access these helplines, reach out to your friends or family. And it's just something temporary. And don't act just walk to the nearest hospital emergency, get yourself admitted. But it's important that you be there. And that's something else that I wanted to say. So thank you very much for listening to me today.
Thank you, ma'am, for those words of caution and advice. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. I believe there are some more questions, but we'll keep having these sessions, probably one tomorrow also. So you can come and talk about any mental health issues you're facing in the sessions that are in succession in the coming week. So I am going to see you all soon. Thank you so much for joining in, everyone. Thank you, Shubhrata ma'am, for taking out the time and speaking to us. Thank you, Sargam. Thank you, everyone, for giving us your thoughts and time. Thank you and have a good night.